What if I told you that the man who lit up the world was a boy who was told he would never amount to anything? That the genius who gave us the phonograph and the light bulb was once thrown out of school as addled? We all know the name Thomas Edison, the great inventor, the symbol of American brilliance. But before the fame, before the thousands of patents, there was a child whose story is more dramatic, more painful, and more powerful than any fiction. This is the story very few people know. This is the untold story of Thomas Edison's childhood. Thomas Alva Edison was born in 1847 in the small town of Milan, Ohio. And from the very beginning, he was different. While other children were playing, Tom was watching. He was endlessly curious. Why does the wind blow? How does a ship float? His questions were constant. And for a busy school teacher in a one-room schoolhouse, those questions weren't a sign of genius. They were a disruption. In school, his mind didn't work in a straight line. The rigid, rote memorization of the time made no sense to him. His grades were poor. He drifted off, lost in his own imagination. The teacher saw a distracted, slow learner. He was, in today's terms, probably a child with dyslexia and ADHD. But in the 1850s, they had a much harsher word. After just 3 months of formal schooling, the young Edison heard his teacher say he had a addled brain, that his mind was scrambled. Useless, humiliated, Thomas ran home in tears, and that was the end of his public education. At just 7 years old, Thomas Edison's school career was over. This is where the story could have ended. A boy labeled a failure, destined for a life of obscurity. But fate, in the form of a mother's love, intervened. When Thomas told his mother what the teacher had said, Nancy Edison did something extraordinary. She didn't pity him. She didn't scold him. She became furious. The very next day, she marched down to the school and told the teacher, slight pause for effect, "My son has more brains than you. I will teach him myself." And so Nancy Edison, a former teacher herself, became his school. She saw his curiosity not as a disability, but as a gift. She brought him books, history, science, literature. She let his imagination run wild. Most importantly, she gave him a powerful new identity. She told him, echo effect on voice, "Your mind is not addled. It is special. You are a boy who can think for himself." With her support, their basement became his first laboratory. He started conducting experiments. Some were successful. Others, like the time he nearly burned the family barn down trying to understand fire, were not. But Nancy Edison never stopped him. She understood that for Thomas, doing was learning. Failure wasn't an end. It was just a step. As a young teenager, tragedy struck again. A severe illness left Thomas almost completely deaf. For most, this would be a crushing blow. But Edison, shaped by his mother's belief, saw it differently. He said his deafness was a gift. It cut out the world's distractions and allowed him to focus completely on his work, on the vibrations of his machines, on the ideas in his own head. He became a tramp telegrapher, traveling from city to city. And everywhere he went, his childhood habits followed. He was still the curious, tinkering boy. He would take apart and rebuild telegraph machines, always asking, "How can I make this better?" His first patents were born from this relentless curiosity. A curiosity that was almost extinguished in a classroom, but was fiercely protected at home. So the next time you flip a switch and light up a room, remember the boy behind the invention. Remember the child who was told he wasn't good enough. The boy who was homeschooled out of love and defiance. The young man who turned a profound disability into his greatest strength. The story of Thomas Edison isn't just a story about invention. It's a story about perception. It's a reminder that a label from one person can be shattered by the belief of another. That the spark of genius isn't always found in a classroom. Sometimes, it's found in the heart of a mother who refuses to let her son's light go out. What label will you refuse to accept today? What spark will you choose to protect? Thank you for joining with us. Until next time. Goodbye.